Welcome. I am Dr. Saida Desile. This is Redefining Femininity, an interview series with some exceptional people. And today, I'm really excited to introduce you to Michaela. Michaela Boehm is an international speaker, a teacher on sexuality, intimacy, and relationship, and the author of The Wild Women's Way. And I happen to have read that book. It's an exceptional book. It feels like a soul sistership. So welcome, Michaela.
Thank you. I'm so happy we get to talk.
I know. It's taken so long. Well, here we are. I thought we'd jump right in today, and I'd love to ask you how you relate to, like, what it means to you personally, the subject of femininity.
Well, it's such a big subject, right? It's like, where do you start? So for me personally, it's kind of I don't even know where to start because it's so big, but it's the way I personally express, right? I consider myself on the extreme end of the feminine in some domains, right? So to me, femininity and everything that comes with it is both personally very important, but it's also really my passion. And so where I'm really a stickler for, we've talked a bit about that via email, is that I don't think femininity has to look a certain way, or sound a certain way, or dress a certain way, or behave a certain way. And that is really important to me personally. And I'm finding very hard in the work I do to really get rid of some of the stereotypes around that, because there's so much weird, neo-tantric stuff out there where you're not feminine if you're not wearing sparkly stuff. And if, God forbid, you're good at business, you're definitely not feminine. And, if you get somewhere, you're not feminine. And so I think femininity is the full integration of everything as expressed through the light body, the subtle body, the pleasure body. And that's what I'm passionate about myself, and I'm super passionate about for anyone I meet, really.
I love and appreciate you so much. I wish we had a long form of this video. I think we would go to some really fun places. But here's what I'm curious about, because your definition, I can just feel it. It's vivacious, it's alive, it's pulsing. Was there something that happened on your journey that enabled you to come to this realization or shift into, this being your living truth?
I think there have been, stages and developments, because I was taught by a woman from an early age, on 16 on. So I've always had kind of a real pride and joy in being a woman. And also I had a sister, I didn't have brothers, and my parents were very much of the kind of, very free, very open, in the sense that I never had the feeling that I wasn't good enough or this or that. And so I've always kind of forged my own path around that. But I want to say that probably the first time in my early 30s, and then again in my early 40s, and now in my early 50s, there have been these shifts where I'm less and less willing to conform, and more willing to just be whatever there is. And on that path has really been the connection to my body and the knowledge of my body and my connection to my sexuality. And I remember in my mid-30s probably came the moment where I empowered myself sexually in the way that I wanted to empower myself, where I didn't need anything or anyone, and I knew my body well enough. And I know you're working with all the same themes, which makes this so good, right? But that I think was a very very important piece, is the empowerment, so that I don't need a lot of outside, I don't want to say I don't need any, because no human, but I don't need a lot of outside stuff to feel good as a woman in a woman's body, doing women's things. And I consider everything I do a woman's thing, simply because I'm doing it, right, as a woman. So there were definitely steps. And now, of course, with aging, right, and hormonal changes and all the things that come with it, there's a whole, I can feel the next thing going to kick in as we're, as we're kind of looking at that as yet another way to be, even more um, vibrant in the expression without any of that, you know, that I had in my 20s and in my early 30s. Yeah.
Yeah. And Michaela, honestly, I feel like what you're speaking to needs to be heard by everyone. That's why I was so excited to bring you on, even though this is a short interview. I think we'll have you back to speak a lot longer. That said, I think that you have a very unique perspective to offer us, because right now there's a lot of dissonance in the dialogue, in the conversations around masculinity and femininity. It's almost like everything masculine is evil and horrible. Everything feminine is beautiful and perfect. And so there's this dissonance happening, and I'm not that interested in going there, but where I want to go with you is, what do you feel for the listeners would be a really important consideration as each of us moves forward to creating more harmony and healthy dynamics between masculinity and femininity?
Yeah, that's a big topic, isn't it? I mean, and it's a fine line, of course, like you said. I mean, you can't really go there all the way because it's also, we don't really know what's happening, right? I mean, one of the things that I'm looking at is this is so new, the way the pendulum's suddenly swinging. And in any time the pendulum swings far into one direction, you know it has to come somewhere into the middle. So how I look at that is that I personally have had, I mean, just incredible good men around, like incredibly good men around.
Mm.
And no good men have worked with men and been with good men, and my father is a good man. So I personally think that there has to be a really, really strong differentiation made between, quote unquote, the patriarchy and men and the masculine. And
Yes.
they have nothing to do with each other, and they're all lumped together in this
Yes.
horrible kind of, somebody needs to be blamed. And they are totally different things. They're systems that are outdated, and these systems have been supported by men and women alike for whatever reasons, right? Then there's human beings that come in the form of a gender. We're not talking now how you identify, but just we're talking plumbing right now, right? There's
Yes.
there's people who, have one kind of plumbing, and there's people who have another kind of plumbing, and that's not to dismiss the fine things that we finally get to, look at and play with, but when we look at the big picture of the discussion, men are not to blame as a gender, and within the gender to blame certain men of certain ethnicities is crazy, right?
Yep.
Because I don't even want to go there, right? It's just, you can't do that because
Yeah.
that's what's been done, and that's what's been done, have been done to women for a long period of time. And so for us to turn around and do the same back is, I don't think, the best way we can go at that. I think learning distinctions and learning, and this is my thing, I have this is one of my big bandwagons. One of my big bandwagons is when we get connected to our own body, and when we have intimacy to ourselves, and when we actually feel what's happening in here, then and only then are we capable of setting proper boundaries. And only then can we make choices as to when to say no, choices when to say yes, because your yes means nothing unless you can say no. And
Exactly.
your boundary function can only be developed when you, yeah. So, it's like, that's where it starts. You can't have a boundary function if you don't know what's happening inside. And I always say in my workshops, we've all had this moment, I certainly have, where you have a meeting or something and you drive away, and like 20 minutes later, you're like, this wasn't okay. What this person said wasn't okay. Well, why does it take 20 minutes? Well, it takes 20 minutes because we're not connected with one of our main advisors.
Right.
And so when we look at, patriarchy, women, the masculine, the feminine, what we have to look at first is, are we having proper boundary function? Can we say no?
Mm.
Can we have distinctions so we can separate? Because we have an internal masculine, we have an internal feminine, right? Then we have an external man, perhaps, that we're relating to as a partner or a woman. So they have an internal masculine, internal feminine. So it's much, much more complicated than all men are bad, down with the patriarchy, we can do so much better. If we could do so much better, we wouldn't have to yet again put other people down so we can rise. Right?
I
It has to
agree.
be a situation where, so just, so
Yeah.
anyway, that's the end of my here.
I love it. No, I honestly, like, you're speaking my language and my soul, and it's so crucial what you're pointing to. So just to recap for the viewers, it's really, really important to have a primary relationship with yourself and to really know what's going on, and sit at home in your being so that you can distinguish what's occurring around you. You can have clear boundaries. You can make your needs known. And then from this integrated place, we actually can start creating a solution. But there is no solution if we're coming from wounding, if we're coming from disembodiment. And I agree with you. It's kind of it's almost sad, actually, that women would then just reciprocate what they feel they went through in order to put themselves higher, because that means that we didn't learn anything. And I think we're actually smarter than that and deeper than that. And we have way more to offer than just that.
Yes. And we have the ability to create really fine distinctions.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's all about the empowerment via and the empowerment to set the boundary and to make the choices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love this, Michaela. Before we go, because this is a short interview, but is there anything else that you would really love the viewers to chew on as a final word from you today?
Well, considering the work that you do, which I appreciate so much, right? I would say that one thing that is also super important is that our pleasure um, is our birthright, right? And we have to take it into our own hands. The waiting that somebody does us just right, so to speak, in all different kinds of ways, is the very thing that stunts our growth. So the engagement with pleasure is not a frivolous. It can be. Some people go at it with on a very surface level, but we all have to enter somewhere, right? But pleasure isn't a frivolous pursuit. And when I'm saying pleasure, I'm not only talking sexual pleasure, talking sensual pleasure.
Yeah.
I know you just wrote a book, Desire, right? Like the desire to combine with be life, combine with life. All of those things are not a frivolous engagement. They're really, really important for where we are right now. And that's from that place we can make compassionate choices and choices that are free of victimhood and need and must have, my precious, those kind of things.
Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much for your beauty. And I really can feel in you a strong current, a living current, which is why I'm attracted to you, because I feel like I have that same thing where there's this, it's a living wisdom. It's not something that you've taken from someone else and adopted. You've literally let yourself live it and become that, and become the oracle of your own being. And that's very evident. And I'm just so grateful to have you share your wisdom today.
Thank you. And the same the other way around. I'm so pleased we get to speak.
Yes. And for the viewers, please stay tuned. I have a little invitation for you. So we'll talk soon. you're invited to join this amazing conversation. Soon I'll be doing a training, Redefining Feminine Power, and I want you to be there. So click the link that comes with this video, join. Just for joining, I will be giving you a free downloadable gift, so definitely watch out for that. And if you can't make it at the time that the training is happening, don't worry. Because you've signed up, we'll make sure you get the replay, all right? So all you need to do is just click on the link, join the conversation, and let's redefine feminine power together.